Instagram.
Cameron was one of my favorite people alive in the world. Goodbye, my dear, dear friend and brother.
And former First Lady Michelle Obama posting she was lucky enough to know Boyce, writing not only did he have incredible talent, but also an incredible heart.
You'll see how inspiring and impactful we really can be when we stand together.
Boyce's parents also telling people the pain we have endured and are continuing to endure is indescribable. But we are making every effort to move forward and ensure that Cameron's legacy and all that he stood for is honored. He is our shooting star.
Cameron was set to appear in several upcoming projects, including a third installment of The Descendants coming out next month.
He was so beloved.
Cameron was on full The Descendants. I have 3 small kids, 4, 6, and 10, and big fans of the Disney Channel and for going back from Jesse. And I'm this young man, and we, of course, are stuck in the room watching this stuff and consume it quite a bit. He was incredibly talented, and that Descendants made-for-TV franchise did incredibly well, and he was great. And I actually had to explain to my 10-year-old son, I read this news, and me and my wife were just so taken aback by it and so sad for the family. And I had to actually explain it to my kids because he was very much in their universe.
Wow.
Let's try and figure out a little bit more about epilepsy and what may have happened here. And for that, we turn to NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. So I think we all know that epilepsy is serious. I did not know how often it can turn deadly. How often are we talking about, and how does it happen?
So the Epilepsy Foundation says that the risk of dying from epilepsy is about 1.5 to 3 times that of the general population. And I think it's normal to think about that. We think about accidental drownings or choking or hitting your head and having a life-threatening injury. But there's this entity that's called sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, or SUDEP, that is actually responsible for about 1 in 1,000 deaths. And honestly, to the Epilepsy Foundation, it's considered the most common reason of seizure-related death. And as the name implies, it happens usually in the middle of the night. That's one of the major risk factors, as well as having very uncontrolled, generalized tonic-clonic seizures. But it's unexpected, and it's unexplained by accident or another cause.
So if you are living with epilepsy, I mean, you say middle of the night, that is terrifying, because how do you guard against it? But are there things you can do to kind of reduce that risk?
Yeah, so Savannah, the main risk is having seizures. So the number one thing to do is to control your seizures. Make sure that you're religious about taking your medications. You want to make sure that you're avoiding triggers. You want to avoid excess alcohol. If your medicines are not controlling your seizures, you need to adjust those medicines. You need to avoid sleep deprivation. And it's also a good idea to have the adults around you in your life being trained in seizure first aid, so that if it does happen and it's witnessed, it could be life-saving.
On that point, I had read that from the CDC that there's people think of seizures in epilepsy as the violent shaking, the dropping, but that there's actually 30 different types of seizures. How important is seizure recognition for people who have somebody epileptic in their life?
I think that's incredibly important, Carson, and also to sort of like hit home the point again that it's these what are called generalized tonic-clonic seizures, these grand mal seizures, that are the greatest risk for having this SUDEP phenomenon occur. And certainly if a seizure is lasting more than 5 minutes and you're witnessing it, you should be calling 911.
Dr. Natalie, useful information there. Thank you so much for that. And Morgan, thank you as well.
Okay, we'll switch gears now. Al's out in Los Angeles. He's got a check of the weather, and he's got his eye on a big storm.
That's right. This is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. It has still not been named yet, but we can get a lot of damage even if it doesn't. Winds at 35 miles per hour. It's moving west at 5 miles per hour. 115 miles south-southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River. And here's the system coming in just before Saturday, like around 1 a.m. It comes in. You can notice it's to the west of New Orleans. That's not great news for New Orleans, because that puts them in the quadrant where the most damage can happen. And in fact, the impacts: torrential rain and flooding, numerous roads closed, flood control barriers, the levees may be breached, upwards of 20 inches of rain possible with this, storm surge 3 to 6 feet, major beach erosion, strong rip currents, and destructive winds, the highest winds to the west of New Orleans, but considerable roof damage, large areas with power outages. Already, the Mississippi River has been stressed because it has been a very rainy year to date. Heavy rainfall this weekend, increasing those levels further. Storm surge raising rivers to near record heights. Look at this. We're talking about a record that was at 21.3 feet. 20 feet is where the levees will get topped, and that's very possible coming up this weekend. So we're going to continue to track this all weekend long. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Good morning. It's a Storm Team 4 weather alert day around here as well. There is a risk for strong to severe thunderstorms today. There's also a risk for some flash flooding underneath some of those storms. A quick 1 to 2 inches of rain on already saturated ground could really cause some troubles. Storms are going to fire up between 2 and 3 o'clock to the west of town and be rolling right onto the I-95 corridor in time for the afternoon commute. Temperature-wise, we're already in the upper 70s. Today's high temperature up near 90 degrees before it gets very stormy.
And that is your latest.
All right, Mr. Roker, thank you very much. Carson's here. JBH is here.
Chanel is here.
Chanel is here.
I
You know
see
what that
JBH.
means?
I raised you with Chanel.
You know what that means?
Go.
Pop
star.
Contain your excitement, ladies and gentlemen. First up, Baby's Day out for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex son, little Archie. Thank